We have yet another very exciting session, which is a fireside chat, and that will discuss the future of design. Is the future of design collaborative? So let me introduce our next panel and eminent speakers. Let me welcome our moderator of the session, architect Tipnis. He's the founder and principal JTCPL Designs. After a robust domain experience of almost a decade, in 2002, Tipnis founded JTCPL Designs. He's an architect, which is an architect-led design build firm, which functions in the corporate commercial space and till date has successfully evolved fit outs for leading entities nationally and internationally. The firm now has presence in various geographies, including India, UAE, Jordan, Malaysia, Egypt, Sri Lanka, Singapore, Indonesia, and Cambodia. Mr. Tipnis, a very warm welcome to you. Let me now introduce our speakers in an alphabetical order. Let me introduce our eminent speaker, Cino Zucchi, Chief Architect, CZA Cino Zucchi Architetti. He's graduated at MIT and at the Politecnico di Milano, where he presently teaches. Author of several articles and books on architectural theory and history, he has been the curator of the Italian Pavilion at 2014 Venice Biennial of Architecture and is the visiting professor at Harvard GSD. Together with his studio CZA, he has designed and realized several buildings, public spaces, and master plans which deserve prizes and mentions. Our next panel member, Dr. Etsy Mario Schmidt, Managing Director, Lingel Windows and Doors Technologies Private Limited. For all those who are joining us today, let me give his brief introduction once again. Dr. Schmidt is also company director of Fenestrebo Lingel Germany GmbH. With his immense knowledge in mechanical science, he has been able to add more value to the company's innovation plan and has helped launch various new products. Mario Schmidt is the president of UPVC Windows and Doors Manufacturers Association, and he was recently bestowed with the honorary doctorate title for his work in skill development and management. Our next panel member is Mr. Sunil MK, Sales Head AEC for Autodesk. Sunil has held a variety of business development strategy and technical positions at Autodesk and Revit. Sunil MK is an architect by training, and he has been involved in evangelizing BIM across Asia Pacific markets since 2001. He has worked with various government agencies driving BIM mandates, as well as with various large private organizations for delivering smart cities and sustainable vision. Let me now introduce another panel member, the final expert joining our panel, Swaviman Das, Design Director, India Space Matrix. Swaviman Das is a seasoned architect and design professional with over 15 years of experience and specialist in industrial design. Apart from creating immensely versatile and innovative contextual designs, Swaviman Das is adept at inducing sustainability factor, fun quotient, and a wow element in humanized workspaces. Swaviman has consistently led dynamic design teams and completed unique projects for the corporate giants such as Airbnb, Amex, Nestle, BCG, Ericsson, Amazon, Hilton, to name just a few. So this is our eminent panel, and let me now hand it over to Architect Tipnis. Mr. Sunil MK, I'm told, is facing some connectivity issue, but he'll be here very soon.
Thank you, Sapna. It is very refreshing to see a panel discussion in today's time and age starting on time. So my compliments to you for that. And before we delve into the realm which brings all of us together, which is the realm of design, I just wanted to set context, if you will, to this discourse for the next 50 minutes, where we look at leveraging the rich expertise of my colleagues on the panel, and why is this word collaboration suddenly a buzzword today? Why is suddenly collaboration so fashionable? And over the past 2.5 years, almost. Recording is currently switched off. Over the past 2.5 years, approximately, we've seen how events have panned out as a result of this Black Swan event, which we are still facing in varied proportions across the globe. And I found my preliminary observations led me to the intersection of Darwin's theory of evolution and Kubler-Ross's model of the 5 stages of grief, and how various entities, various companies, various nations, governments dealt with their own sets of challenges. And the ones who succeeded and the ones who thrived in this phase, and we all know quite a few examples of those, versus those who kind of got overwhelmed, who were short of ideas, who failed to tide over this event. What was the differentiator, or rather, what were the various differentiators which separated these 2 entities, or these 2 silos, if you will? And I think all my co-panelists would agree that collaboration is definitely up there on the list. We've repeatedly seen people, entities, nations who were more collaborative thrived and even exceeded their own results in the past. And so micro-focusing now on our realm, which is the realm of design, and discussing as to what the future of design is in terms of collaboration. Let me first pose a common question to all my panelists, so that we set a firm platform for the conversation to begin. And I would like to start with posing this question to Cino, followed by my other panelists, which is, Cino, what does collaboration mean to you, and how do you see collaboration being leveraged in your design journey, and B, how have you seen collaboration pan out in certain shining inspirational examples?
Hello to everybody. I'm very happy to be here. And while Sapna was talking, I had a crazy idea to put together 5 pictures which are a preamble to my content. So let me just share the screen. This is just in time. I did it 5 minutes ago, okay? Let me just share my screen and okay. When I was a kid in school, we've been taught about ideal cities. There are many models of ideal cities. One was the Broad-Acre City by Frank Lloyd Wright in America, but another one was Chandigarh, did by Le Corbusier. It's a long story. Actually, you know, Chandigarh is the capital of Punjab, and after the Second World War, you had all these migrations. The story is very complex. But we were taught as the perfect city, you know, planned by Le Corbusier on a big grid. You don't have blocks, you have sectors with this, you know, things like that. So this was on my textbooks, and this was the capital. You know, you had the parliament, the judge, the tribunal, the offices, these famous things. It was a landmark in architecture education. Then maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I was invited to Chandigarh to give a lecture. I actually never saw it in my life. And this is the picture I took. You know, I think they just had some kind of terrorist attack, so you had to go through a security check. Then, you know, the big capital designed by Le Corbusier, which he imagined like a big forum. Also, Punjab is a very hot and damp in the climate. So I think Le Corbusier got something wrong about the climate. It was some kind of barbed wire. And you see traces of his work in everyday life. You know, he designed this big brise soleil, which mean, you know, sunscreens. And then, of course, since you have a lot of dampness, everybody put air conditioning, you know, the parliament between barbed wire. This purity, even aesthetic purity of Le Corbusier, of the raw concrete. So you see an ideal city after 50 years, certain things works really well. They do work well, the traffic is good, is quality of life. Certain things are strange. For example, Le Corbusier used the streets only as you know, in a way for moving cars. So all the blocks look inward. And then this means that I think that the modern movement, what was called last year, thought as the architectural product, the building product, as just the result of a process in a way which would be analysis of the data. So if I have to build a school, I count the number of children, I see the stress of material, I analyze the budget, I do the geology of the ground, I see the course of the sun, I study whatever, and then I have some kind of algorithm, of black box, I insert it, and then form comes out. So the functionalist model is input, algorithm, output. And this was meant to be universal method. I think the drama, it was confronting this internationalism, which was good of the UN and the FAO, with many local cultures and ways of doing. I think that this abstract idea of method did not consider that the practice we do is not this, is people working together, sharing values, and that's why I wanted to go to the idea of collaboration, and they sort of learn from their mistakes, and they, in a way, consolidate the successes. So the process, Nida mentioned Darwin, is a very Darwinistic process. Nothing comes out perfect. We continuously do things, is a trial and error process. My point that in architecture, in building, this takes time. If we can make this process more complex, where they say you have a feedback system, where the result goes back and alters the way we do. This is a diagram of what was called a feedback system. So you have an input, you have a black box and output. The output goes back and feedback and sort of regulates as a valve. So now we're talking about user response. I think this takes time. And I formulated me a little bit as ironically, the campsite shower theory. If I go in a campsite and I want to take a shower, a hot shower in this case, I open the faucets and the water is cold. So it takes some time. I try to turn on the hot water, but it takes some time for the water to travel into the tubes. So it's still cold. So I go until it's hot. So I get hotted, and then I turn it into cold, and then it takes time, and then it goes right. What do I try to say is that even if today the building process is very fast, there is still a delay between input and output, which means we cannot respond totally just in time. This is true for the COVID. People try to adapt just in time. Maybe with furniture, we all worry, what will be the world? Or architect Zucchi tell us what will be the world after the COVID. But we are adapting every day, which means this idea that architecture is produced on a program, but in the long run, it has to survive. We're talking about resilience, adaptability. So I found this quote in Functionalist Times, 1933, and he says, while the functionalist looks for the maximum possible adjustment to a goal which is as specific as possible, the rationalist is looking for the greatest chance of compliance to the largest number of necessities. Nothing more understandable for the rationalist to put an emphasis of form. Form is born with the establishment of human relationships. The lonely man, isolated in the midst of nature, has no formal problem. The question of form arises together with the union of more individuals, and form is the condition which make possible men living together. I end up to say that today we are going through a very complex process. When I do meetings of 20, 30 people, you have the BIM expert, the climatic expert, the landscape designer, the project manager. Who is responsible in the end of, it's like a film. When you see the end of a film, the end titles, you have hundreds of people working, the director of photography. But in the end, the perception of the film is very synthetic. Today we have project managers. Yesterday, my engineer asked to the client, said, we need somebody to hate. Can you give us a project manager? The project manager is something which Friday afternoon sends you a mail. By Monday, I need this, this, this. We need a project manager, but the project manager, in a way, is only responsible for the timing, is a production line. I'm saying, who is the responsible today of the character and the feeling of the final product? This is a question. Sometimes it's a client. Actually, it's a collaborative work. But to collaborate, you can't just add up small chunks of specialities. We need a common ground. So collaborating, it means not only adding up very scientific pieces, but finding a ground of dialogue. And to establish this, we have to deal with customs, ways of doing, cultures. You know, something that can be worked well in America, maybe in India is not working well. I'm working in Russia now, in Vladivostok. I just finished a project, and it's totally different the way the people live still. So we need a common ground. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Cino. And I'm going to borrow your campsite shower theory in my future conversations. I think it conveys the point with a nice layer of humor, and it conveys it fast. Thank you very much for tying collaboration with the kind of examples you provided. Swaviman, would you like to take the same question? And what is your take in terms of where collaboration is spanning?
Yeah, I was about to add to what Cino just said. I think I just like that campsite theory, and pertaining to that and everything revolving around that, I would put it in a different perspective. When it comes to collaboration, I would say, where did this word come from? So basically collaboration. Okay, so it's a overused word today, and it's being used everywhere. But yeah, it's the fundamental of it had been always, you know, where people congregate, they share ideas, they share their own perspective. You know, people react to certain things, they respond to certain things, and you know, after sharing, they reflect. So reflection of ideas is something which is kind of a output which of a collaboration. So I mean, that again, when it comes to collaboration, that had been happening from under a tree. I mean, many people just congregating there, or maybe in a garage where you know, different potential ideas and radical ideas start from, and that becomes a giant. So if I talk about let's say giants like Apple or Amazon, so all of these, you know, are a form of output of collaboration which happened within one garage, right? So just giving examples of just trying to reconnect there. Sure. And I would, from a workplace point of view, being you know, day in, day out, I do design a lot of workplaces. So I would say the word collaboration has now really evolved, and it is just not confined within a glass box. It's not just about a meeting room where people collaborate, but I think the lingo has totally changed because of how people really function and collaborate. The work patterns are changing, right? So it's just not like, as you can see, I mean, the live example, like how we are collaborating. This is a cross collaboration which is happening right now on this platform, in this forum, basically. So this is again collaboration versus what used to happen within a confined room physically. So yeah, I mean, when we start defining collaboration now, if I dissect the means and modes of collaboration has changed a lot. Now there are project rooms, there are war rooms, there are scrum rooms, there are team rooms, there are speed up meeting rooms, there are telepresence rooms, there are you know, starting from Zoom lounges to casual touch points. So as you guys could see, I mean, there were like 10 different form of defining where collaboration can happen, which wasn't there in past, and now it is really evolving.
Yeah. Oh, great. Thank you, Swaviman. I think I'm on this journey, and as you rightly said, it's an overused word today. But if you peel the layers, and currently the short answer I have to that is it's a convergence of capabilities to produce content, which is not singularly possible. And alluding to what Cino said, what we see is also a convergence of capabilities in different time capsules coming together to give us a capability which none of those time capsules predicted.
Absolutely,
so it's basically a convergence catalyzer to produce new content. And again, going with his moving target theory, it just keeps moving. Which brings me to Mario, and Mario has been a robust partner of the AEC community. So I would like to understand his ideas and his version of collaboration, and what does that mean to him?
One point was really funny or good. Hey guys, we need a bad guy, and usually also I'm happy of playing the role of a bad guy. I'm on Tuesday or Wednesday, I don't remember the date, but it's now exactly 28 years since I'm doing the same just Windows since 1994, and it has to go together. And what you as architects or decision makers, where we struggle a lot in India with all the changes. For you, a changes means time, and time on the end means money. For me, a changes means time plus money, because maybe the product was ready, and time becomes more costly, product becomes more costly, and everything goes into money. And then it goes into not into a win-win, it goes into a collaboration which is lose-lose. Two people have to work together, watching each other as an enemy. Two people are working together where someone wants to be this much big, pulling the second guy down, then he takes some revenge. Also important in our day-to-day operation. And I'm really happy that I'm still spending a lot of time in operation. I'm being a lot at sites. I'm seeing the most complicated things, what we are executing, and then being together with the project management, with the architects, with the customer. It is really important that we are stepping in as early all together, so that we know what is the budget about. We know about what is technically possible, because we have super cool, I've seen it somewhere in the US, I've seen it somewhere in Australia. Just in the previous panel, we spoke about marketing. Here we talk about the product. I've seen it somewhere, but in what way I can actually implement it, and at the same time, at the cost, the customer actually is able or wanting to spend. Therefore, we have to come as early as possible in. Also, what you rightly said, the consultants are also there, but in the end, someone has to execute the job. We have a dream, we have a vision, we have a collaboration, but on the shop floor, we need someone who takes in the cement, the bricks, the whatever, anything. And therefore, it is really, really important that as early as possible, everyone understands the goal. Collaboration means we are going together. We know the vision. The vision is the building on time. The vision is, for me as a vendor, that of course, yes, whatever is specified has to be implemented, has to be given, whatever is specified, has to be paid, so that the excitement runs throughout. And what you just rightly said, it was one of the first panel where we started on time. Now the excitement should be to finish the project on time, and to finish the project on time in the quality we are actually all together looking for. Because I have seen many projects where this last 5% of uniqueness, of the delicate detailing, just goes nowhere, because the institute has to start, housewarming is happening, this is happening, then if someone has to hand over it. So this is where we are really losing a lot of, and again, it is about collaboration, that I say, hey guys, I also need my 1 month. I don't need only 1 week. Please speed up in the early stage, because the deadline is there. So this is collaboration, one vision, entire decision makers together, from day one, excitement, handled by the customer or by the project management nicely, that we are working together and not against each other. This means, for me, collaboration.
Thank you very much, which brings me to a follow-up question to you, which is what have been your key learnings from ideal collaboration? Because you just enlisted your version of the way we could ideally collaborate, and rather than lose-lose, we establish a win-win kind of situation in such a way that everyone benefits. And at the end of it, we get a super product as a result of everybody's contribution. So what have been your key learnings in terms of ideal collaboration?
We have to provide the time to listen. We have a strong demand, but if there's a strong observation, it has to get imported and it takes this much time. The concrete takes this much time. The tile takes this much time. So that we are not just saying, I want it. So of course I have to say I want it, but then I have to be ready to listen to the expert, how much time it actually makes. Also I'm allowing someone to speak and I'm allowing myself to listen. And then I'll accept something which I may not like, but because of reasons explained, I have to accept. And then from this new situation created, we are going again together forward. This is for me the ideal collaboration in any project, and not related only to Windows. Anything you need 1 day, 2 days, 5 days time to make your revised drawings. Sit at night tomorrow 10 o'clock. The drawing is to be ready. Okay, the drawing will be ready tomorrow 10 o'clock. But the thought process, which has maybe then additional mistake or this was not overtaken. You know, when a project is ready and you have to start, you change one line. Now this line from the basement to the ground floor to the floor, you know it better than anyone else. So where those little changes are going to lead up, and this is what comes in a hurry in, and what has to be thought out together, that those should be accepted, so that again, project completed on time with a lot of all the happy faces at the end.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you. Swaviman, as a fellow student of workspaces, I mean, we do a lot of workspaces as well. Some of the best practices. I mean, what are some of the best practices you have seen specifically over this 2.5 period, and how have they evolved and how have they been different from what it was before the event?
Hi, Ninad. Was that for me? Sorry, I missed it.
Yes, it was for you.
Okay. So, yeah, I think there's been a diametric shift in the way we think workplaces. Workplaces is no more a place where people think it's just a place where people can perform or work. A place where you go 9 to 5. The purpose of at work basically has completely changed. The way we work now is shifting. It's no more a place where you go for from 9 to 5 and that's where you work. Now the concept of working from anywhere has come in. Like, you can work out of a cafe, you can work out of maybe a park, why not? And you're working out of your home, so it's completely changed now. But now people, there are pros and cons to all of it. Like, when people used to like the newness of this thing coming in, that work from anywhere, but that has its own demerits, and people have started realizing that when it comes to infrastructure, internet bandwidth, and many other stuff, which people started realizing that a workplace is something which is really imperative and has to be designed and designed well, where they can really do, workplace enables them to do better, right? So nowadays things are shifting. There's a conscious, thoughtful design which is coming to when it comes to workplace design. Now it's no more about just the paperwork and working in silos and departments in various forms. Now the parameters are gradually changing when it comes to a workplace design. Everything revolves around people now, their needs, their perspective, a stronger brand connect, rebuilding on human connections. That's really important. Ease, comfort are something which is really important right now. Elevated experience of when I'm working at home, when I'm right now sitting in my study room, I have my own comfort here. So when it comes to a workplace, where there's a sudden formality which is there. But now when I start thinking of a workplace which I would design, now we have started thinking how the lifestyle adaptations can be infused with the workplace, right? So it's no more just a formal environment which needs to be created, but rather how would I bring in those lifestyle adaptations into place, the home comforts and all of those aspects, basically amplifying on rekindling the social connections, enriching company culture there. So these are holistic and wholesome experiences which needs to be embedded well within the workplace design. Also, people are looking for a safe, conducive kind of environment. So these are factors which are really the changing parameters right now. I mean, it is no more just the physical elements, having n number of meeting rooms, or let's say x number of workstations, or y number of collaboration points. Rather, it's a cyclic architecture where there is work, there is a workplace, which is the sphere, and there is workforce. So that's how the connect is. But there are many things which are intangible apart from the physical structure of it, and that is where the world is shifting when it comes to workplace design. Bringing in the brand connect, using more of a user intuitive kind of a place where then also thinking of zero carbon programming. Why can't that come into picture? I have also spoken about personalization. So personalization can also happen through technology. So that is also a point which is a big subject right now. How do we do that? Eventually in this discussion, when we move forward, I have got some exemplary examples, I would say, when it comes to different projects, how we are personalizing workplaces. I'll come to that. But yeah, now it's more about people, their experiences, enriching the cultural quotient, the social quotient within a workspace. So these are parameters which have changed now versus what it was earlier. So earlier it was more about productivity, efficiency of spaces, and all of that. But now we are more focused on the the emotive aspect of designing. And that's what I would say is the
Sure.
future.
Sure. Thank you. Cino, you spoke about evolutionary phenomenon, and you took the example of a city, and then you infused several layers, which the algorithm then got to process, and then it was a feedback loop, if you will. And since you brought an example with multiple timelines, my question to you with respect to collaboration is, how do you think collaboration has evolved over the years or over the decades? Because the business of design has always been about collaboration, right? Collaboration has always been a start point. But how have you seen it evolve? And what has changed? What has changed as we look at collaboration today? And B, what has not changed? What has been timeless in terms of collaboration? And I have a follow-up question, but I'll let you take this first.
Okay. Now, first of all, I think the architects, even Le Corbusier, they always had the syndrome of the prince. In a way, we architects do not own our means of production. A painter can paint his painting, then he has maybe problems selling it, but he can do it. A writer can write. We can only do drawings. So to realize what we do, we need, of course, I really think that the production of, say, human environments, buildings and things, is almost like a big ecological system. In ways, is an environment. And in this sense, working in different countries, I really realized that one could say the market, of course, the economy, the goals, the taste of the people, the customs, the way we use, technologies sometimes are very different. And also technologies, we think technology is all the same, but we have practices where, think climate and so on, generate some kind of product. And in this, you always have innovation, but always in this this is a Darwinistic ecosystem work. Today, my experience, I'm 66 years old. I was, I used to draw very well by hand. Now we use the computer. Sometimes I'm frustrated with the people on the computers because I know the geometry very well. I know the physics. I deal with young people who don't know anything about the principles, but they can, they're very quick. So this is always a strange elective. But many times we have so many experts today, facade designers, also because once I made a metaphor, if the architect 100 years ago was a composer, like a music composer, today is like a DJ, because the more and more the products of the components becomes industrialized, less and less the architects can just draw. If you look at the drawing from the 50s, the architects could draw the moldings of a window frame, talking about window frame. Today, exactly. We modify it and assemble. We cannot design I'm not able to design the details. I know what the typology of windows is. Then I talk with the facade engineer or directly with the people. And then they are more and more interested in variation of design. So if the 50s and 60s of the century had the idea of the standard product, we do one product in millions of exemplars. Now it's an attempt from the production company to have, in a way, the more and more the process is industrialized, sometimes they could correspond to a more flexibility of the product. Many in the ceramics factory, many times you sit down with a technician, you say, okay, what you want? You express the goals, okay? And he tries to adapt the goals, tells you the limitations. So it's very nice because we're not able to design the whole thing. We've been taught the architects like Vitruvius, he knows everything. So we need to sit together. And in this sense, technology is amazing. Sometimes, yesterday in the studio, I said, something I thought it was difficult to do can be very easy. And sometimes something to me are totally easy to do, they become difficult. I enter in a meeting learning, so I know things, but every time you enter a meeting, you come out changing your mind. And this changing the mind of each other, influencing each other is the most interesting thing. If you're just one way, that's why the idea is we applied quite sophisticated knowledges and technologies, but we need some softness and adaptation. If each one fascistically, I would say, applies only what he knows, then is a dialogue between deaf and dumb people. So each of us needs to be specialized, but we also need to collaborate. And this is not always easy because many times each discipline generates its own ideology inside the discipline. So we lack the big systems. So the only way to me is to try to share the values, what is important and what is not. Make your last example. I'm working in Vladivostok. Yesterday I was making a big plan. And Vladivostok has a quite tough climate. So the question of sun insulation is, in the 50s, we generated what was called the heliothermic axis. So all the buildings should be oriented 11 degrees, a little bit east-west, but with by-bys, because they said that in the morning it's a bit cold like this. So all the big quarters were done with parallel slabs. Then this would work. It would give sun to everybody, but the city was destroyed. We'd rather go to Venice. Is it better to live in Venice in a north face apartment or to live in Vladivostok in a sun face? Can we put this together? So if you apply too mechanically the rule of sun insulation, you get sun, but you destroy the city. In that sense, it's compromise. But to compromise, you need to state together what is the main values and what are the lesser ones. You need to adjust a bit. If you go 100% with a value, the other value could go down to 15%. So you need to go back 85% of this goes up. It's like a mixer. And to do that, the client is the end, has the last word, of course. The client has to be a good client. But we together, we have to say, okay, what is the level of multiple objection? Otherwise, it's almost impossible.
Exactly. So as I hear you say that collaboration has actually reinforced our rethinking muscles. If we are better listeners, if we listen to all stakeholders, if we focus on the values for which we are together, it helps us rethink. And rethinking essentially is not a bad thing. Rethinking polishes the product, takes it to the next level, and as long as it is congruent to the values, we get something which is a win-win-win for all concerned.
Just one quote. Is by a Moroccan writer. He said, "The contrary of knowledge is not ignorance. The contrary of knowledge is certitude." When people are too sure of themselves, sometimes this is the best obstacle. We all have to learn how to experiment and, in a way, reframe our thinking.
Exactly. You spoke about the responsibility matrix, and with the adding numbers of stakeholders now evolving a project, who does the responsibility lie with? And I just want to dwell further into this because the number of stakeholders directly ties with the concept of collaboration and how well we collaborate, how efficiently we collaborate. Gone are the days when the architect used to be called the master architect, because he was, in a way, like Cino said, he was the Beethoven of the project. Today, an architect is one of the important members evolving the project. So, where do you see a shift in stakeholder engagement today in terms of collaboration? Why have more stakeholders come in today? Is it because we've started collaborating better? Is it because of technology? Is it because of the changing requirements from a client perspective? What has led to this? You want to take it, Cino?
Yes, it's because also also the space of working has changed a lot, as you said. The question of meeting places is important. We did the headquarters of Lavazza, the big coffee people, and what is interesting there, we had totally to rethink the way people, when 30 years ago, the space planning of an office reflected the hierarchy. The way you dispose the tables was the way people relate, or the hierarchy, I think. Today, many protocols went into IT, information technology, and this fluidified, did not totally, open up. Almost still, the space is important, the way you put people, but of course, that's a meeting place, and the more you can telework, the more an office place has to become the home of people coming, sharing things. Is like, I'm not saying it's a living room, but something close to it. And also it has to, in a way, when you go to somebody else's house, it has to represent your value. Even if a house is not made just to show off, when you go in somebody's house, you look the way he lives. So Lavazza, which is a multinational company, you also have it in India or in America, when the representative of Lavazza come to Torino, which is this, they get the feeling of the company. So this idea of, I don't want to get too poetic, we're all quite technical people, but sharing feelings is also important, not that about what you do. And in that sense, I would like to speak also of a revision of what in the old times you would call the zoning. We had the industrial area, the living quarters. I also deal with urban design. And today, how to mix back the Lavazza quarters, headquarters work perfectly because we put the cafeteria out not inside the building, but out. So people open the umbrella to go there. They thank me. The employees said, thank you, Cino Zucchi, because we can take a break and make 50 meters go out. And the cafeteria was open to everybody. And you have the student design school, you have a space. This is not easy to do today. Somebody in the previous talk were talking about cybersecurity and also security, because you have many communities where you have what is called gated communities, social differences. So you cannot say everybody, the big megalopolis. I recently in Mumbai, and Mumbai is a fascinating city, but of course you have very different social areas. You have this tower. I don't remember the name of the guy who built, is the biggest single family tower, this tycoon of media, I don't remember his name. He built the tower himself, just him and his family. And then you have,
Ambani.
So, so you cannot apply one rule. The question is, can we go back to shared spaces as we share things in a reasonable way and also accounting for security? So I would advocate revising the idea of a segregated city only in dormitories, and this and that. So to also, the in-between spaces are important, as the communication is important, collaboration. When we design, we tend to overlook the meeting places, and this is an important issue on the urban design side.
Thank you. That was really insightful. I want to pass the same question to Mario. How has your working changed in terms of partnering with AEC, in terms of the rising number of stakeholders? Suddenly you have more than one person to interact with. How have you adapted to that? Or rather, what are the steps in terms of collaboration you have taken to adapt to multiple and simultaneous stakeholders?
I would like to go only back what Mr. Cino just said when you talk about the window frames. And fortunate, unfortunate, in India, at most of the building, you can still make it by hand. But when I go to my German office, it's impossible. It is simply impossible because of technology. Now, when we look about Europe, the Anulab is completely covered. And I have now, compared to a building of the maybe of the 19th century or a building of maybe 50, 60 years ago, there are many more products coming in. And therefore, the architect is the DJ. You have a multiple influence here, so many things. And what is also more and more, which is important, which is as of now, unfortunately, not this much in India, it's about compliances. Compliances from the energy consultant, from the security consultant, from the structure consultant, where many compliances needs to be signed. And while signing this, of course, people are more matured and more, how to say, they are looking more in detail, they are more conscious. And that's why the numbers of people and agency working together only for the security aspect. We can look about for the energy environment safety prospect, like in Europe, then again, it will go up. Also the number of stakeholders became huge. Also now when we are looking to Europe, what is the cost of a building? Because of all these, the cost of construction, cost of building has so significantly gone up, where we are thinking about now, maybe in Europe and Germany, my home country, is it now really possible for a normal individual to build up an individual house? Or we are having these flat concepts, which we are having here in India. We do have it in Germany, but since we are going there more in the horizontal, not in the vertical, but then it becomes to a thing where you can't simply afford it. And this is simply the reason, because I keep on adding, and this is where our industry, where you as the architects, as the decision makers, should say, hey, till here it's important, whatever is in terms of safety should come in. Whatever is in terms of environment should also come in. So, but then again, what else is there stylish? What is the home automation? All those things which wasn't there before 10, 20 years ago. So these are the points where we are really working more and more together, and it will keep on going. As I have written here, money is the thing. Everything becomes more important. Each and every loss will cost much more than it was there in a building in the past here in India, which was just granite, brick, marble, mud, so that we didn't have any electricity 200, 300 years ago. All those additional contractors for the lifestyle, for the involvement of the building, whatever has changed, has put this in, and now it is, of course, an important task to manage them and to manage them well.
So well put, so well articulated, Mario. Absolutely right. And there has to be a finite timeline. There has to be a start and an end to every process, and there has to be a predetermined overlap between two processes, so that there is clarity, there is efficiency in production, there is clarity in the look ahead plan, so on and so forth. This brings me to the final track of the discourse, and a piece on collaboration is incomplete without bringing in technology. So my question to Swaviman is, how has technology amplified collaboration? From the perspective as you being a workspace practitioner, and B, in general, has technology only been an enabler, or it is an impediment as well? What is your take on that?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting topic here, and for since we are moving towards every day there is a change, and change is always constant, and every day we are evolving. It's no more, as I was just mentioning, it's no more just a traditional conventional form of workplace anymore. I ultimately see workplace is a true reflection of the organization. Creating a space which really exemplifies the experience is something which people have started thinking towards. And since technology definitely is the nerve of everything, and I mean, it really binds everything together, and without technology, design would be handicapped. So that's how brutal a statement I would say. So today there are definitely technology definitely helps us in really envisioning a space. I mean, just imagine a lobby or an art house or maybe a gallery or a workspace where you enter, maybe your own studio. When you enter, I mean, in today's time, there are no human being, rather a robo coming and greeting you. I mean, that's the extreme of things happening. There is no conventional reception or check-in counters these days. So what we are thinking is, can everything be a touchless kind of environment, maybe environment where technology immersive branding is also being done. There are so just imagine a space you enter and there are QR codes, and if I scan the QR code, I get to know about the space. I get live info about the space. I get to know live information about on statistics about the company which I've visited, or maybe the organization. So that's the level of tech which is being kind of embedded now. And I mean, there's no more a conventional reception kind of a scenario right now. Now, again, touching back to collaboration a bit, collaboration happens in a cafe, collaboration happens in breakout spots, collaboration happens when I'm taking a printout and someone else coming to the same printer. That's where we chat. These days, all these points, like the breakout points, cafes, there's a follow me printer technology, there is a smart cafe technology which is there. So if I am in a space, I'm working there for, let's say, 8 hours, and in between I'm skipping from meeting to meeting. I don't have the time to go and order my food. I can right away through an app basically order what to be prepared for me, or maybe the croissant would be warmed when I'm there at 3:30. There are beacons everywhere these days plugged in, where which tracks the density. I mean, people are more conscious about a safe, conducive environment today. One would not want to be in a really crowded space. I get to understand the density. I mean, there are beacons which can basically track density of a cafe, give you live feed about beacons would be talking about. There are sensors which can. There's a live dashboard which talks about the air quality, humidity of a space, temperature control. If there are hot pockets, I mean, there would be live data through which you can control stuff. To the extent that there are meeting spaces where, let's say, if you visit an office space and you are a visitor, the meeting rooms have become so smart that they would know the exact color temperature of light that you need for that meeting. There are presets. The meeting room itself would greet you saying, "Hi Ninad, would you like to have a cappuccino, sugarless or with sugar?" So they know. I mean, the spaces itself are getting intelligent. There are smart visitor management systems, which are linked to the GPS and linked to the map, where if you are going to any space, through an app, you get to know whether you have got parking space. From the parking space till the reception, till you come to meet me in one of the meeting rooms, everything would be all guided. There are stimulants within space. Like recently, we did a project where there are for BCG, Boston Consulting Group. So we have done design different stimulant pockets and rooms. All black room, completely white room, which maybe where you can reflect, where you can focus, or a completely acoustical den which was designed. There are recharge pods, which is again a concept which is being developed, where, let's say, you're coming from Chicago to India, you would be jet lagged, right? So and you have to just get into a meeting. So are there any recharge pods? So yeah, there are. It's a product which is being designed by Philips now. You get into that light shower, it completely recharges you. So this is the extreme of technology which is getting into design these days.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Swaviman. I think we've come to the end of this discourse. A topic like collaboration can literally go on for hours and hours, but since Sapna has set an exemplary practice of starting on time, let us also be good practitioners of time and conclude on time.
Absolutely.
I must say this was a very insightful discourse, where we started with a very sticky concept, the campsite shower theory, thanks to Cino, followed by win-win-win, and how do you silo your processes at the same time, keep them permeable, by Mario, and the various possibilities of workspace design, how it has evolved, and how technology is adding its layer in enhancing user experience by Swaviman. So thank you very much, gentlemen. I would like to hand over to Sapna.
Yeah, it was indeed a very interesting discussion. And in fact, we have some questions also from the audience. So part of the question has already been answered, that one of the most overhyped term in design right now is collaboration, as you rightly mentioned, which is the most underappreciated idea in design. It's being asked, I think, to all our panel members. Ninad, you would like to go first?
Tino, would you like to take that?
The most under-evaluated thing in design, you're asking?
Underused term.
What is the most underappreciated idea in design?
Failure. I think we all want to be sure, we want to be guaranteed, but there was a direct, Samuel Beckett said, fail better. I think every innovation have to account for some kind of failure. The question, who pays for failure? So to innovate, you need to experiment. To experiment, you need to do mistakes. The question is, do we build our mistakes, or not? Because of course, it's a very expensive thing. So if we go on only want to certification, we always go and do the same thing. And it's a question of dealing with calculated risk of experimentation in many levels. I think this is very important. So it's a collective endeavor. How much can we change a bit, try not to do what we always know how to do it, things, but also who pays for the possible mistakes. So I would say failure. Of course, in a provocative way.
I would allude to Cino, and I already mentioned this earlier in the conversation. It is the very act of rethinking.
Yeah.
I think rethinking is one of the most secure things an architect could do, rather than remaining fixed on ideas. I think that is the most insecure thing to do. So I would say rethinking is underrated, underappreciated, and very much the need of the hour, where we allow other stakeholders also to shine with their uniqueness, their unique ability, and bring their learning on the table. And that will truly make the concert successful.
Yeah.
Important is only just one second. Whatever is the concept, it is underestimated as long as I don't present it well. So there, of course, the issue comes to the buyer. I buy something because it was so excited, maybe it wasn't even good. And the second concept, which was just speaking for itself, but the listener, the customer, or the decision maker didn't get the point because he didn't went in detail. This will be, of course, underappreciated. Also, this is a balance between over-excitement to sell something which isn't good and something which is super cool and isn't presented well. Also, therefore, we have to find a balance.
All right. Swaviman, what's your take on that? What's the most underappreciated idea?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with the forum that, there's, when it comes to a repetition, there's a set pattern of working and designing. It doesn't really, kind of provoke innovation. So rethinking, reimagining, restructuring, completely distorting the ideas, and again, imagining the whole thing is again something which really kind of invites that's basically bringing exploring something better, experimenting over and again, and then
that's right.
that's evolution, right? So that's how we evolve, and that is what is really imperative as of now.
That's right. We had architect James Law earlier in the session, and he said, if you do not innovate, you die. So so that is what it is. What architect Cino is saying, fear of failure is something underappreciated. We should build on our failures. What Nina Tipnis is saying, rethinking is something we should adopt. We should do that. That is how we move forward. And what Mario is saying, if an idea is not presented well, that definitely is an underappreciated idea. And what Swaviman just said, let's not get into our comfort zone. Let's not repeat, and let's rethinking and keep innovating. One last question before we let go of our eminent speakers is that architect James Law also mentioned about metaverse. So when we are talking about collaborating, when we are talking about stakeholders, does that add another layer now of maybe the gaming industry being part of the design and building industry? Are we going to see that from the panel? One word, how do you see that?
I think most definitely it's a new realm of being. It's a new realm in which we can discharge our services and sell our wares. So it is definitely here to stay. The metaverse will expose us to more and more techniques of collaboration, both in the real and the virtual world simultaneously. I think it will allow us to oscillate between real and virtual in real time.
Yeah. Architect Cino, what do you have to say? Does it make the work of architect even more complex, more difficult?
Well, this issue of we're talking about digital twins and preview. What we do with BIM, you can do it. So we have very, very powerful tools of prediction, and we use it every day. So in that case, it's an important one. We don't have to forget the physicality. I mean, again, many times things that look really good in the renderings and simulation So, you know, we were thinking about presentation. Today, it's a difficult matter because we have to seduce more and more. You know, we are, architects are a bit exploding. Either I have a lot of Chinese students, you know, I teach a lot of Chinese students, and they either see me as an Italian fashion designer like Armani or Prada, who in a way just does a sketch in the air and everybody has to obey it, or technicians. I think that architects, sometimes they give them a too big responsibility of being like gods, and then the day after they treat them like, you know, donkeys. I think in that sense we have to collaborate. We have to stabilize some kind of idea that a good product has to be good on all levels. You cannot think the image can just go back. So this is also true about building typologies. You know, you have a lot of housing. India in this moment, you know, countries with a high rate, Europe does not have this big birth rate, but you build every day quarters which are really big. And in those quarters, people will live for years, you know, centuries, I would say. So without having, sometimes the idea of tradition is a bit commercial. There's a very nice saying by Paul Valéry, he was a poet, he said, when we say the expression to renew, to rejuvenate a tradition is a fake one, is a wrong one. Is typical of tradition being perceived almost as a continuity we're not aware of. In the moment we become conscious of tradition, we have to evaluate it as a new project in a way. You know, this is true because today, the more and more we are scared about, we want innovation, but then we have, oh, let's go back to the good old things. But sometimes the word tradition is used only as a patchwork. You know, you go to Venice and you put a gondolier's hat. You go in a touristic way. You go to, so many times commercial architecture uses tradition only as a patch on, as like a, you know, some kind of sticker. I think that can we have a non-nostalgic view of tradition and get the deeper part without having just an image? The territory we're working on, India, is places has such a deep, deep culture. Sometimes it breaks your heart seeing this new quarter, which, you know, in the end, everybody goes in the historical city when Saturday afternoon. You know, the new cities are not yet good enough to attract. When we will love the new parts as we will love the old cities, we made the game. And it's not easy to do it, of course.
That's right. That's right. So non-nostalgic view of traditional, you know, practices, and metaverse is the new frontier now for the architectural industry. So, you know, on that note, let me close this panel. You know, and let me thank our, you know, expert moderator, Ninad Tipnis, for, you know, for such a wonderful moderation of the panel, and for our eminent speakers joining here, sharing their views on such a interesting topic of collaboration. Architect Cino, Zucchi, thank you for being here. I know you have been extremely busy, but still thank you for sharing your time and expertise. Mario, for being here with us, sharing that solution provider point of view in this discussion, and architect Swaviman Das for, you know, sharing how workspaces are now becoming more collaborative, and especially with technology becoming part and parcel of our build spaces. So thank you so much, everyone on this panel, and our speakers. Thank you for being here with us and for sharing your expertise.
Thank you.
Thank you
very
so
much,
much,
everybody.
Thank
Thanks
you
so
Sapna.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.